Hey guys, I'm Daniel Morad. I race for Mercedes-AMG Motorsport and I drive the AMG GT3 and GT4 in real life. I'm going to walk you through my settings that I use in real life and how I use the SIMUCUBE active pedals to basically simulate the race car. Let's jump into the software and I will show you my settings so you can also feel like you're driving the race car like me. So in the settings, we'll start with the throttle right away. The throttle pedal is such a nice luxury to have in terms of having an active pedal as a throttle, because you can do pretty much anything to the sliders and you can dial in your settings, and I could get the settings as close to the race car as possible. So just starting with the actual curve, the force curve, I'm using a linear force curve. That's how it is in the race car. I have a 2 kilogram preload just to have a little bit of resistance and a small dead zone, just like the real car. It doesn't quite activate right at the very beginning. There's a little bit of a dead zone and then also a dead zone at the top. I have 60 millimeters of travel, a total of 8 kilograms of force on the actual throttle pedal itself. It does feel really nice, not too heavy, but not so light that it's just like going back and forth and bouncing around. And to control that, I have a little bit of damping in there. So 2% on both ends when I press and release the pedal. I have a little damping. That just helps smooth out the pedal. Of course, I mentioned the dead zone, so I have it mapped with 2% on either end. And I have added a little bit of motor vibration. Personally, I'm using a motion platform, so I do get vibration through the actual chassis, but I've added a little bit of motor vibration as well, just to get that feeling in my foot. So not too much, just basically using motor vibration frequency multiplier on 1, 10% vibration intensity, and I have the vibration balance between low and high RPM set to 1. That seems about right. Really looking forward to, not really using traction control because I don't get that in the real car, so I don't use it on the sim, although I can see that being a very interesting option to tune with certain cars. G-force, not in iRacing, that's my current sim of choice, but intrigued by it, and it's going to be very interesting once that's implemented through the software. Jumping over to the brake pedal now. Probably the most interesting pedal for most of you. This is how I've set up my brake to feel like the GT3. I do tune it to feel like the GT4, and the thing I do with it is just basically reduce the maximum force. Instead of like 65 kilograms, I'll go to around like probably 55. That more or less feels like the GT4. It's just a little bit less force compared to the GT3. But yeah, so I'll set basically my my preload to about 2.2 kilograms. I have a little dead zone in there. I use a logarithmic curve because I want to have, that pressure in the beginning. You don't actually push the pedal that hard to slow the car down in real life. It slows down quite easily. Just with a little bit of pressure, it actually slows down. It's the very, very end where you're pushing the pedal harder and harder and harder. Not much more happens up here. And you want to have that control when you get up to the higher percentage brake pressure. So I kind of have it set where I'm pushing the majority of the pedal here, and I can get to like a pretty decent pressure, like 80%. Of course, we don't use percentages in the real car. It's more so pressure, but I have it so I can push and get about 70, 80%. But when I want that 100% or even more pressure, I have to really, really push further and further and further. This is going to give me a lot more control on that upper range. So it's not jumping from like 60 to 100. I really have nice smooth control on that brake pedal all the way up to 100% if I need it. 65 millimeters of range, the brake pedal actually moves a lot in the real car, way more than you think. So I do have a really nice long range, and the beautiful thing about these pedals is that it's so precise while giving you that long pedal travel range, which is unique to these pedals. No other sim racing pedals that I've tried can offer a precise pedal input on that load cell and give you the long travel. So this is very unique and probably one of the nicest tools. And we're not even talking about ABS at this point. This is just a precision tool it is a huge advantage to be able to have that range of travel and have the precision. So moving down, we have a little bit of damping, 10% on both ends, just to smooth out my application and my release, so it's not jumping around. Like I said, I have a little bit of a dead zone built in there. And I want to feel like, you know, I'm getting to 100% on the brake, and I don't want it to hit a hard wall. So I've set it up so it doesn't actually hit a hard wall. I can brake to 100 and it just goes over that. And I'll show you kind of how I know when I'm approaching 100%, just a little bit down below. ABS, one of the coolest things about these pedals. Both the AMG GT3 and GT4 both have ABS. I don't use motor vibration on here because that's coming from the throttle, so I turn that off. I get enough vibration through my chassis and my motion. But if you don't have motion or vibration motors, you can probably play with that a little bit. I just don't because I don't need it. ABS, now I've set it to 10 Hertz. When we were developing these pedals and I was assisting with the development, we had a much bigger range, but we've actually reduced it. It actually went up to 100 Hertz. Now we have it from 25 to 5. I set it around 10. I felt like that was appropriate for the GT3 and GT4. Very similar feeling of the ABS system. 20% intensity and smoothness on 100. You don't want that very quick vibration like a buzzing. You want it to pulsate one time. Boom. Boom. Just to give you enough feeling that you're into the ABS, but you don't want it to be bouncing all over the place where it's going to give you a very unprecise or inaccurate pedal positioning. You don't want that. So in the real car, we kind of just have it pulsate one time and it's like, okay, cool, that's ABS. So you're into the ABS, you kind of feel it and you immediately just release the pressure off, because a lot of people think you run ABS in the real car, like we're just smashing the pedal down and holding it. That's actually not the most efficient way to drive. That's what you can get away with it. It doesn't punish you that badly, but to gain that extra little bit, what makes you an elite driver is to be able to feel where that threshold is and not be into the ABS, because it's more so just reacting to what's happening. You want to be proactive and ride just off of that threshold where it's locking up. You don't want to be locking, or you don't want the ABS to really be working overtime. It's more so you drive into it and then you release right off of it and you ride right before it. Now traction control, you don't need that for the brake. G-force, like I said, very interesting. Very curious to see what that's going to feel like in the future. And this is what I was talking about in terms of knowing where I am with my positioning. Brake threshold vibration. This is more so driving through braille, just getting that feeling through my foot. When I push the pedal down, I can kind of feel it right here, just pulsating. I'm at 90%. That's how I know, okay, you're very close to that end. So I've set it up like this. I haven't really played too much with it in terms of vibration, intensity, and stuff like that. I've more or less just quickly set it. This is definitely something I want to play with more. Not really anything that's simulating the real car, but more so something helping me with just knowing where I'm at, giving me that extra little bit of a connection with the game, because I lack the feeling in my body. I want to have a little bit more feeling everywhere else so I can drive and know where I'm at with my inputs. And those are my settings. Hopefully you guys can learn from this, and if you want, you can just completely take a copy of that. And like I said, if you want to drive the GT3, those are more or less the settings. If you want to adjust it for more of a GT4 feeling, you can just tone down that brake force or the curve force from 65 to 55, and that would more or less do it. There's not really much between them. Like I said, hope this helps you. Hope you guys enjoy it, and the goal is for this to feel as realistic as possible. This is what I use it for. This is my training tool, and yeah, you guys can now use it as well.